Hello, welcome back to Spiritual Growth Tarot and Astrology. This will be your weekly astrological transits coming through. We're going from the 21st to the 27th of January. I don't know where the month is gone. So anyway, we're going to have Mercury and Mars traveling together in Capricorn, but it's squaring Chiron, so it could be a little challenging there. We have Venus moving into Capricorn on Tuesday, and then later in the week on Thursday, we have the full moon coming in at, I think it's 5 degrees of Leo. So anyway, let me just swap out cameras here and take you through it one chart at a time. Okay, be right back. Okay, so opening up this week, you can see that we have the Sun and Pluto in Aquarius. And so now that Pluto has entered Aquarius for the second time, we might have themes and issues, positive or semi-negative or whatever, but we can handle it no matter what. Take us back to March. It was towards the end of March, that last week of March last year, that Pluto had its little dip into Aquarius, but it only lasted until June. It was like March, April, May, June, so we had those 4 months, or actually a little less because I think it was the beginning of June, somewhere in there. So anyway, the deal with that is, in Aquarius, it's an air sign, first of all. It can symbolize our connection to each other, like the way we know we're all connected in the core star, in our spirits, in the heart of hearts. And so it does, connect with the collective consciousness and all of our efforts to be one with each other, no matter what. Even though we have differences, even though we might not agree, we can just agree to not agree, and that's okay. We can still love each other. So that's on the humanitarian side, on the human side. But then we have the technological advancements that come through with, when any sign is in Aquarius, and the Sun and Pluto together, we may have some new breakthrough with AI, and it may have to do with something that brings through more safety. Now, we do have that tension field there with the square to Jupiter, and every day that, the Sun goes closer this week to Jupiter, we will have an exact square there. So we've got a little tension field all week here. And then we also have, just to kind of hold in the back of your mind, that this is, we have this build up to the full moon that's going to happen on Thursday. So it could be a passionate type of a week, and it could be healing, right? We could be getting in touch with what we really want, and for most people that I work with, it seems to be that we all have this common theme around independence, especially, women. And I see that over and over and over again with everyone I work with. There's this amazing higher self-intention for to be independent on all levels, right? So we might also see, because we always have to incorporate, no matter what sign a planet's in, we always want to incorporate the polar opposite. And so the polar opposite of Aquarius, of course, is Leo. So it's heart energy. When we have the polarity, I should say, of these two signs working together well, it's heart-opening energy that allows for the uniqueness and the creative self-expression of each individual. And we relish seeing the individual uniqueness because it's coming from love. That's at the highest. And then, at the lowest, it can be being afraid of people who, and they might unconsciously use those fears in negative ways, but being afraid of people who aren't like them, right? So, we see fascism, we saw so much of that with Capricorn as well, but I don't expect that to let off as Pluto makes its way through the early degrees of Aquarius, because the bottom line is, Pluto's our planet that brings things to light, but it might first try to bury it. Like here's a really good example. Politically, we see what is their name? The Zieglers? Yeah, I think it's the Zieglers. The couple where like he's the head of some GOP House committee, and he and his wife are being sued for sexual abuse. Because they've been involved in a threesome, and I guess there was actually rape involved, and it's really, really sad. But she's the wife. I can't remember her first name. It completely escaped my mind. But anyway, she's one of those moms for liberty, right? Which is supposed to be anti-LGBTQ. So that's out, right? She couldn't bury that. That's bringing, that has been brought up to the light. So in the early degrees, like if we hearken back to the time of when Pluto was in Capricorn, remember in 2008, we had the Great Recession. We had the big banking fail, or the too big to fail, kind of a thing going on. And it was a definite challenge to to deal with. So that was at the beginning, and now that we have Pluto all the way through, although it's going to dip back in. Remember, we're going to have another little retrograde back into Capricorn September 1st. And, back just to that 29th degree, but that's that anaretic degree, which is really strong. So, when Pluto was going through all of the degrees, the 30 degrees of Capricorn, we just have to, reel yourself back in time and remember what you went through with the Great Recession, right? And that had to do with a lot of fear around the structures, because it was Capricorn, the structures that were in place for protection. And we had insurance fraud happening as well. That was part of the Pluto, the end of the Pluto in that 29th degree of Pluto in Sag, right? So there was a little mix of that. Remember, like AIG was part of that big, what was the name of the, I remember in Calabasas, I can't remember the name of the big company that fell first, that took a lot down, the big mortgage. They were what were credit default swaps within the mortgage industry that caused all the problems. But that was created by Wall Street. So while Pluto was in Capricorn, we get to see how, where the cracks were in our, in our system, where we were protected and where there was no protection. And in fact, it was set up so that the people with money could win even more. So now let's just think in terms of, because we're ushering in this new era, let's think in terms of Aquarius. So remember, Aquarius is ruled by Uranus. And so it's all about freedom. It's all about liberation. It's all about science and technology. We can have amazing breakthroughs when it comes to AI and laser technology, that's used for many things, medical science as well. But it can bring through some big changes that can come suddenly. And for people who've been working in the darkness, these corrupt politicians and moneyed, I should say, people, there can be reversals of fortune that happen. So, but most of all, for us on a day-to-day level, I think what we can do is just constantly be open to seeing things in new light, in a new way, and be open for those flashes of insight, all of those aha moments, and all of the freedom that we're heading towards, and how easy, things are getting when it comes to. It's so much easier, you guys. I'm telling you, from even from just when I started my YouTube channel, 4 years ago, the level of what's the word? It's not opportunity. I guess it's just ease, like the level of ease and grace and being able to move more quickly on, when I upload a video. The advances in technology that YouTube has brought through is amazing, and in a short amount of time too. I mean, it's a world of difference in the last 4 years for me anyway. And I don't even use, I mean, you know me, I don't edit. I don't even use much. But it's just, the simple uploads. So you may have that same, experience, and it will continue to build for this next 20 years. This is, once Pluto makes it to Aquarius to stay on November 19th, then we're going to have that experience all the way through March 8th of 2043. It may be a degree or two off because the ephemeris are, pretty much printed, but, in our computer programs, things will shift. They just do little updates, and so we're going to be able to track it. But anyway, I think it's important to just think in terms, when we see Pluto in Aquarius, the biggest place or the biggest basket I could use to say, okay, it's going to be this. For sure, it'll always be about this. We could say that we're in this evolution of humanity, long-term evolution of our society, the way that we interact with each other, the way that we can think a different way. Instead of being caught in duality where it's either this way or it's that way, we can understand that humans are very complex beings, and they, any given situation you can be feeling and sensing many different things all at once. And what I love about the Aquarian energy is that it's usually open to communication. It's an air sign, right? So all the other air signs, like Gemini and Libra, are all about communicating, and this is especially on the table today with the moon in Gemini, and it was, yesterday. I'm doing this video on Thursday, so it would be not just Sunday, but it would also be Saturday and probably some of Friday that we would be experiencing the moon in, no, it would just be Saturday, yeah. So Saturday, Sunday, because it's at 11 degrees. So 2.5 days in one sign is how we experience the moon. So anyway, Saturday and Sunday, with this trine to the South Node, there's a lot of communication with maybe people from the past, and there's a nice bridge of consciousness to communicate and think outside the box. When I see Aquarius, I often just think of, oh, no box. It's time to open up, expand our thinking and communication as well. So that's the theme. That's where we're headed, and I think that is absolutely wonderful. I hope that it helps a lot of people who've been stuck in some cult-like, consciousness with Trump and these other people that just seem to be very hateful. I hope that it helps some of them wake up and go, wait a minute, what if I were in their shoes, right? Everyone can imagine. So anyway, so long term, that's where I'm thinking with Pluto and Aquarius. And just always think of Pluto as going deep. It's about deep transformation, and it does start from within. It can be a precursor that comes from the outside, but then the real work is done on the inner levels. So I am hoping that there will be even more power that comes through with unions and getting out of those old patterns and structures that just don't serve anymore. They don't serve the greater good of humanity. And to get into a place where we realize that if we're focused on what's good for everyone, it's also good for ourselves, right? Because that's the benign circle of abundance. Aquarius energy is all about community, and so if we value our community, then we're also in that same benign circle of the larger network of humanity. So, because if we're all doing well, we'll all do better, usually. Now, there's always going to be some people that are going to mess with that, but that's life. It's life on Earth, right? We always have to remember that Earth is a dualistic planet. We are unitive beings, but we are having dualistic experiences, and we bring through these egoic fragments that, they're not based in truth. But as we work through whatever that lie is, those false beliefs, those little lies in our souls that think that this is the way it has to be, every little false belief we work through, then our greater spirit, our greater unitive higher self spirit comes through, and then from there we just start automatically going towards more love and more grace and more ease and more abundance, and then hopefully we can get to the place where we have so much to share with each other. But until then, some people just have to go through a lot of trouble to either break out of power dynamics. That's a reason why empaths usually hook up so well with narcissists, because it's a way to work out of that and reclaim our power and get out of that. Yeah, and it's why a lot of narcissists wind up incarcerated. Yeah, and then the worst ones they're not incarcerated, but they're in charge of the prisons, and yeah, that's another whole story. I'm not even going to go there. So anyway, Neptune and Saturn in the sign of Pisces, again, I'll just go over it really quickly like I do every week, where the Piscean energy is all about healing, and it brings a flowing, might feel kind of mystical, but it should feel just very human as well. It's where the mystical and the human flow together, where opportunities come through to build a spiritual foundation with Saturn. So building your life according to spiritual law, the laws of love. And from there, with Neptune, there's a possibility to keep opening up to more and more and more, because Piscean energy is so inclusive and it's so geared to the, just unlimited possibilities. But then on the downside, we do have people that are going through some really hard times because, they're no matter what, Piscean energy is sensitive. But if the sensitivity is too much to handle, they might use, drugs or a lot of alcohol to numb out, because they're just not ready to go through all of that pain and then to come through the other side. So it can be challenging because without going through the pain and processing it through, then we're not taking self-responsibility for what we've experienced. It's like we're the only ones that can heal our painful past and our childhood wounding. We're the only ones that can grieve for our inner child. I mean, the people that love you can also, grieve with you. But if you won't feel that pain and you won't go there, they can't make you, right? So it's all about taking self-responsibility, processing it through, and then there's so much healing where you're open to go, wherever you want with your life. But until that, all of those unprocessed issues remain, then life can be depressing. It can be very challenging. So, and then on another just human level, Aquarius rules our calves, all the whole lower leg, calves, shins, and ankles. Pisces rules the feet. So, we want to be careful. Like if you're a dancer or if you get out and walk every day, you want to be very, very careful when you're outside so that you don't trip or slip. It's a real pain to go through a sprained ankle, that's for darn sure. Or anything with your feet, and then with the moon and Gemini ruling the hands, it's like hands, feet, lower legs. I mean, a little problem with your shoulder or lower back or neck, spine, anywhere. We can usually work around it and get through things, but when you have a problem with your foot or your hands, it's challenging. Knees and ankles, oh. So we want to be careful there. Now, we still have Eris close enough to the North Node. Now, the North Node's heading backwards because remember the nodes go backwards. So the North Node is heading closer to Chiron, and Chiron's these two are headed together, okay? So with that Aries energy, it's that wanting to trust your instincts, to be very present with yourself, especially when you're moving through time and space. Be careful not to rush. And because with Eris there's that courage. And with all the planets, all systems go. So on the, is it the 26th? Yeah, it's the 26th that, so Friday, we're going to have Uranus go direct. And then we're going to have this period through April 2nd where we don't have any retrogradation, so all the planets are direct. So with all systems go, we're going to need to be careful, especially if you're living in the northern hemisphere where, it's still winter, there's ice, there's black ice, there's snow, we have to be very, very careful and to slow down. Most of all, slow down. A lot of this energy is very quick. Ceres and, Venus will be in Capricorn before we know it, but on Tuesday. But right now, this beginning of, so the end of this week before, Sunday, and then the beginning of this week. So it'll be the end of last week by the time you see this, maybe. Anyway, I'm saying from Thursday, what is this, January? I think it might be the 18th. I don't have my phone in here to even look. 17th, 18th, even last week, all this Sag energy is quick. It's fiery and it moves fast. Okay, so that's what I'm saying. Be careful, slow down. It's going to be helpful. It is helpful already that Mercury and Mars are in Capricorn because that has slowed down, has been slowing down. That's not a word. Has been slowing down. That has helped us to slow down our minds and to focus on what we're doing. And, one foot in front of the other, like Mars and Capricorn climbing a mountain. But when it comes to the quicker moving energy this week, we do have, the South Node in Libra is nothing to sneeze at. That can move pretty quickly, and especially with connecting with others. And then the Moon in Gemini is as quick as the mind can go, right? And then with the Sun and Pluto, of course, in Aquarius, that is very quick-moving energy. So it's good that we have Jupiter and Uranus in Taurus, because that's slower. And like I said, Capricorn, so the earth energy helps us to slow down and relax. But Uranus is not slow, right? Aquarius isn't slow. Pisces can be kind of slow and dreamy, but it can also be kind of all over the place. So you have to really set your intention as to what you want to connect with, connect into. And intentions are so powerful. Every time we set an intention and really work with it, we're in this realm that can feel very magical and mystical, but it's literally energy wrapping around your consciousness. Where the masculine and feminine in the spiritual realm, they're not separate. On this earthly realm, we have the feminine energy that wraps around the masculine consciousness. And when I say masculine, I'm just thinking of that you're focusing in on, you're naming something that you want to bring in, right? There's a focus, there's a concentration of this. I want to go here. And you might not know the whole plan, and that's fine, but you have that conscious intention, and that's part of the divine masculine. And then right away, as soon as you have that conscious intention, the divine feminine wraps energy around that, and then you have something. and there you go. So whether it's the beginning of something or further development along the way, it's coming into form. And with the sun in the early degrees, so remember the first decan, the first 0 to 9 degrees of any sign, that's where we are developing something. We are bringing new things into form. And for today with the moon, well, actually, you know what? I don't want to go there yet. Let's talk a little bit more about Venus and Ceres. They're only about 5 degrees apart. And in Sag, in the sign of Sag, we are, orienting ourselves, or orienting. Did I say that correctly? Orienting. I need to enunciate a little more clearly sometimes. We are getting ourselves on the path of whatever has been inspiring us. Sag can be very inspiring. Sag can be very intuitive. It's that movement where you intuitively go in a certain direction. That's one of the reasons with Sag, ruling sports. After there's enough practice, the body kind of just goes in a certain way because there's that muscle memory. So just think in terms of like fiery passion, action, and if it's geared towards your intuition, because those are the muscles that you work all the time. If you're sitting down every day, if you're using the Neptune and Pisces energy that we have now, and the Saturn discipline with Saturn and Pisces, if you're using all of that energy, you're meditating every day. And you might even go through your day in a bit of a walking meditation where you're just constantly using your intention, stopping and thinking which is the best, what the question might be, which is the best way to go or best thing to do at this point, or when you have those periods of time where you don't have to do something and you're thinking, oh, what would be best to do now? If you're opening up to your guides and your guardian angels constantly, then that guidance comes in and quickly. Now, of course, we have the square to Neptune, but this square to Neptune, to me, to these two planets, or the Ceres is a dwarf planet, but still there, just like Pluto and Eris. But anyway, so the Sagittarian energy squaring the Neptunian energy is, I think, not a challenging thing. I know it's a square, and squares are supposed to be challenging, but at least there's contact, right? When there's contact, you've got something to work with. And Ceres is coming closer to an exact square, so there's that applying energy that's always stronger. So set your intentions and follow your instincts. Just, your muscle memory that, is already open to your guides. You're already listening. If you go out for walks, you have your route that you go, but, be careful with this intrepid weather. And, from there, it's this challenging square actually turns into strength because it's something that we work through from both angles. Let's see. And then with Ceres also, let's see the trine down here to Eris in Aries. So Aries and Sag, 2 fire signs. The other fire sign is Leo. But from Aries to Sag, it's very instinctual, can be very intuitive on the body level. Both of these signs can definitely be very instinctual bodily. And there's a lot of energy there. There's a lot of courage. There's a lot of support to courageously, start something new and to continue on, or figure out a different track to go. Maybe your trajectory has been, you've just been focused one way, and suddenly something else opens up new. And that's because both Ceres and Venus are in that last decan, that last 10 degrees of the sign, where there's some mastery coming through. And you're learning even more, but there's mastery coming through. So I would think that people are being more courageous in starting their own businesses, or deciding to retire and what they're going to do with the last chapter of their life. Or if you're younger, deciding maybe to take on some new classes that you hadn't thought of before. Like maybe you didn't think you might, ever want to do computer science or work on robots or work in robotics or, the computers that take care of the robots, things like that. But now with Pluto and Aquarius, that whole realm is so open. So the next 20 years, we're going to see so much. And if you're young, this could be your beginner, this is the beginning of a whole new, chapter in your life that lasts for the rest of your life. Because you get it, when you get things when you're young, you really have it down. And it just develops. The older you get, the better it develops. So, okay, now I feel like I've covered that well enough. With this square, one other little thing here, I want to be careful about, or I want to say that, and I intend this for myself too, because I'm human and I make mistakes. But I want to say that I want to be careful about any, like negativity or cutting off or not investing my heart in, or some other, just any form of separation with people who seem to be caught up in the Trump cult. I want to make the conscious intention to send them tons of love so that they can come home to who they truly are, and that they're not operating under any guru, or people that they think are going to save them, because I want them out of, I want to hold space for them to find their way out of hatred. And with the Venus and Sag up here, I think we can get somewhere with that. And with Ceres and Sag, we're nurturing more unity with Venus traveling, through time and space together, or in alignment with. Because, Ceres is the dwarf planet that travels between Mars and Jupiter. So, and Mars has already done its sojourn in Sag for this, it'll be a while, it'll be another year or so before it comes around again. No, actually 2 years. It takes 2 years for Mars to get around, through all the way around. So when it comes to this connection with Neptune is there holding the space for anyone to dissolve old false beliefs and transcend above hatred, transcend above confusion, transcend above the distortions. And if they're really open, it can help them, link up to the place where we all long for, just that place where we're all one, where we all care about each other. And it's also very Neptunian energy. The planet Neptune is really good for envisioning and imprinting a brand new plan. If you consciously decide that you want a different life, we have to imprint that from within. We have to empty out first, but we can empty out and bring in the new. Just like if you have like a dam and there's water that goes over the dam, then there's all that silt and ash that's at the bottom. But as the water keeps moving, then it pulls it out. So we can do that with our, by healing our emotional reactions. And the emotional reactions are always going to be aggression, and that also includes passive aggression, or it's going to be submission, like just the aggression I think is pretty self-explanatory, but submission can take the form of giving ourselves away just to have connection, because connection is a real human need. We're all interdependent on each other. So, balancing that out, just not giving ourselves away, but we can still stay connected in the heart. And then the other forcing current of that'll be can always be a challenge, is withdrawal, and that's where the Aquarian energy can be a little challenging, and especially with the square to Jupiter, because Jupiter in Taurus definitely wants to stay safe, no matter what. But with the square to the Sun, and every day this week the Sun getting closer and closer. This is an approaching square that makes it much more strongly. A stronger experience. It can definitely be like withdrawal, like just, my way or the highway. Oh, you're not going in my direction. It can be like you're on the road and somebody is riding your ass and you're not going fast enough, but you're in the slow lane or something, or you're in one of the middle lanes and they can't move. And rather than just chill out and hang back until they find an opening where they can get over, they're going to ride your ass, right? There's the aggression. And then if there's the withdrawal, they're not going to care about the fact that they are possibly setting themselves and you up for an accident. Of course, if they rear end you, it's always their fault. But then there's that withdrawal that happens when they get that spot to open up and get past you, and they go around you, and then they get in front of you, and then they slow down. Like that kind of crap, that kind of like hemming in and getting back and, vengeful. Those types of things can happen when we have the Sun and Pluto together. So be careful on the road. Pluto's on the dark side about power. Power is good if that's like that old, hold on, I have it here. Do I still have it? It's my old, oh yeah, here it is. Oh, and the power of love overcomes the love of power. The world will know peace. A dear friend made it for me years ago. So, of course, it's Jimi Hendrix. So, power is not a bad thing, but it has to be given in love. And if you don't have the element of peace in there, then it doesn't go with the three forces of the universe, which are expansion, contraction, and stasis. And it doesn't allow for everyone to just kind of get along and flow. Like there is a flow of traffic if everybody's calm. But then every once in a while you have these crazies that are just, doing crazy things, and then you have an accident. So be careful about getting in arguments, but also, maybe withdrawing and going in the other direction is the right thing to do. And you'll know because, the intuition is there with all this Sag energy. South Node in Libra supports that. The moon in Gemini has that ability to think quickly. And with that inconjunct, today, I would say pretty much all day. Let me see. Let me push through the hours and see how long that inconjunct lasts. It might be all day. Oop, oop, oop. Hold on. There we go. So where are we at? Yeah, oh no. Well, we went from 4 a.m. to 9 a.m. Okay, so it's only early in the morning. With this inconjunct here, anytime we see this green line in that like sideways K, that's an inconjunct, or also known as a quincunx, and it's a 0 to 3 degree orb, and it's coming off of Mars, right? and it was, I think, prior to hitting Mercury. So we just think of in terms of the moon hitting Mercury, bringing through that connection to something more solid. So because Mercury and Mars move slower than the moon picks up energy off of the other two planets. And of course, Mercury's our messenger. Mars is what motivates us. So all of us, and especially all Capricorns at this time, are very motivated to work hard, and they're thinking in ways that are very constructive. That's if you're using the energy in the positive aspect. So Capricorn is all about goals. Now, Aquarius is all about goals too. Goals, wishes, dreams, group, but it's more like group consciousness. Capricorn can be just kind of head down working on your own thing. But Virgo can be that way too. But with the moon in Gemini connecting with all of this, I'll just sum it all up together. We're in this, this over the next day or so too, we're having these opportunities to negotiate. That's Mercury. We are having opportunities to attach more meaning to the way we feel and how we respond and how we think and then how we communicate. The moon is it's our intuitive faculty. But connected to Mercury and Mars and Capricorn, we're going to be thinking and then making adjustments because we're trying to figure out how to stabilize, how to become more solid in some area, how to structure ourselves in a way that creates even more opportunity. And so it's really good for planning, for making plans. This is an excellent day for making plans, even though, it's a Sunday, but it'd be a great day for setting up the entire next week, or maybe you're thinking about the entire next quarter or all year. There's that very real possibility there. So the day is really good for that. So let's go ahead. I think that's probably good for the weekly overview. Let's go ahead and go to Monday. So Monday, 4 a.m., this is the 22nd. You can see the moon or sun is still there with Pluto. Everything is still the same, except, things are moving along degree by degree. And so I'm going to focus in on the moon at 24 degrees of Gemini. So we're in that last decan of the sign. And again, we're mastering something that has to do with the way we want to communicate. And we can have... It's very possible that we have a loving mirror on one side and a very compassionate and nurturing experience with somebody who's very intuitive. And they get us to think in a new way. And then from there, there's a breakthrough. And it could just be, not just, because I think those are awesome, a communication breakthrough where maybe, you're on one side of the equation trying to find the right words and make yourself understood. Because remember, Mercury's just finally past that point of, remember it was 8 degrees. Remember when Mercury was retrograde, we had to get out of that shadow, had to get past that 8-degree mark. Well, we're there now. That, happened last week at the end of the week. But now we're communicating in ways that can be more unitive. When you think of Venus, if you just think of adaptation, like where we're adapting to something new that comes in because Ceres is there and we're trying to nurture something new, something bigger. And it might bring through a lot more harmony and happiness and love. Venus is also geared towards, money and, of course, all forms of pleasure in its relationships, right? It rules Taurus and Libra. So here we are with the South Node in, Taurus, and then we have... South Node in Libra, and then we have Jupiter and Aquarius in Taurus. So there's some interplay there, and with the trine still connecting, we have 2 trines still connecting to Eris, we are absolutely Look how Ceres is exactly almost by minute trining Eris. So courage is Eris's hallmark. Remember, Eris is she's like our sister counterpart to Mars and Pluto. And she takes 500 excuse me, she takes, well, I guess I should say first, she represents our feminine struggle for equality. And she takes 558 years to orbit the sun. So she's even more powerful than Pluto. And with Ceres trining, now Ceres changes signs, I think it's about every 4 months, if I remember correctly. Yeah, it's about 4 months, and then when it goes retrograde, it stays retrograde for like 3 months or so. And it takes more than 4.5 years to get all the way around the zodiac. So it's quite a bit slower moving than Mars, twice as slow. So anyway, back to the trine to Eris. When you see, just look at the glyph, right? Like Libra looks like a bridge. Sag looks like an arrow. It's directional energy. The glyphs are the way they are for a really good reason. Aquarius can help you flow to outside, to the mental realms where you can get out of a constraint if need be. Aries is just head forward moving. Taurus kind of just sits there and goes, okay, hold on, we have to be safe. And, we're thinking about money. And you can do the same thing with the glyphs, the planetary glyphs, and just play around with the symbolism of the shapes. Like Pluto looks like a soul that's, it's bound to Earth here, but then also it's opened up to the transformation of the soul. So anyway, that was a little squirrel moment. Sorry about that. But with Ceres in this exact trine to Eris, I'm thinking that there's a lot more courage to use your intuition and go in that direction. And it will never steer you wrong. But now, on the path to following your intuition, there are tests, it's challenging to get over your self-doubt. But if you're meditating and you're listening to your guides all the time and you're aligned with the forces of love and you're committing, then you should definitely trust what comes through. And it will be, my experience has been that it will be consistent. It will consistently, your guides, even if you shut them out for a while, they will consistently hold space for you. They will consistently guide you in the same direction until you've exhausted that entire realm, if need be, like if you're doing deep inner work. Because, the levels of consciousness continue to expand. We go deeper in and get rid of all the false beliefs, but as we're going in, we're also expanding out, so that the as above, so below is happening all at the same time. With every breath, we are spiritualizing matter. We are bringing life force, more and more spiritual life force into our bodies, with all the room that we make by clearing out all of the old traps, the old emotional reactions, which keep us stuck in the past. So, let's see, with the moon, with that opposition, I would just say there might be a lot of communication today. Might be for a work day, there could be a lot of information being shared, but it will be about which way to go, which is the best way to go, that question. And that's actually good, because the moon in Gemini, the moon is also really good for negotiating. And we also have this aspect of the architect that the moon is forming. So notice how the moon's at 24 Gemini, Eris is at 24 Aries. So there's an opportunity here to more courageously figure out which way to go. And then with the trine from the south node, we've got the energy there, that bridge of consciousness holding space for us, that is saying, oh yeah, remember we tried that this way and that worked out pretty good, so let's continue on in that vein. So I'm feeling like overall, and then especially with the inconjunct here that is exact to Uranus, I'm feeling like there's more breakthrough, for Monday at least, a lot of breakthrough that in areas where maybe you were feeling hemmed in and held back, because with the, the sun in Aquarius, Pluto there holding that space for empowerment and, cleaning things up. Pluto's good for cleaning things up. Maybe there's this cleanup of, any challenge. Well, a lot of the challenges to artificial intelligence. That's definitely going to happen this next 20 years. But yeah. Now, when it comes to fixed energy, we have Uranus and Jupiter stabilizing finances, stabilizing survival, stabilizing, all the things that Taurus is about, things that we can hold on to. Taurus helps us to magnetize opportunities as well. It helps us to anchor in something that really matters to us and hold on to it. So we have that going on for us as far as the fixed energy. But then we have, a lot of fire here. We have the cardinal energy which is movement oriented, between Libra, South Node, and Mars and Mercury together in Capricorn. That's that cardinal energy that's still wanting to, continue on in the direction we're going, because now we're finally really getting somewhere. And then, of course, the Aries energy is cardinal. So there's a lot of movement. There's a lot of envisioning opportunity with the Pisces energy there. And, yeah. But with this South Node trining the Moon, again, as, this leg of the aspect of the architect, the Moon is at the hinge point. And shout out to Victoria Cleary for emailing me and asking, does that one corner mean the hinge point? I'm like, yeah, that's a perfect way to describe it. So if you're thinking you kind of have a bit of a bucket going on here, right, with the aspect of the architect, the trine and the sextile combined, this would be that bucket point. So with our communication today, with the Moon in Gemini, so back to what Gemini is all about, besides communication, it's about connecting the dots and then bringing in even more opportunities. And it also helps us connect back to ourselves and figure out what's really going on if need be. The only trouble, well, we could have trouble, but I kind of doubt it. If we do, it'll be a lesson, and wherever we have trouble, it's okay. It's no big deal. We just have a lesson. But with Gemini, sometimes we have to be careful to see if are people really telling us the truth? Are we really telling the truth? Or am I creating more problems by being confusing? And then most of all with Gemini, it's always an opportunity to work out something dualistic. And with the most challenging piece of Gemini, we can have some unresolved duality going on, an unresolved soul split where it stems from our childhood experience. So if we had parents who didn't give us any or enough or much encouragement or connection, unless we were Or maybe we lived in a home that was just very argumentative. So you grow up thinking that that's how you connect. The only way you connect is through being contrary. Then you're going to play that out with your closest relationships, usually, because they're the ones that'll stick with you because they love you no matter what. But you might go through a lot of friends, or you might not make those deeper connections because there's always that contrariness. That's Gemini. Okay? So, and when those times come, just try to be gentle and loving with others and with yourself. But if you catch yourself in that, like, what am I really trying to do here? Am I trying to be right? Because the dualistic issues will always be around right versus wrong, pain versus pleasure, unhappiness versus happiness, bad versus good. Instead of, you can be good and bad and we're going to love you anyway. You can be right and wrong at the same time and I don't care. You know what I mean? It's all just conversation to me. But when somebody's, in that contrary place, thinking that that's a form of connection, well, then we just have to learn that it's not real connection. It's a push. It's a constant push. There's a push and pull constantly going on instead of a coming together. So my prayer is that with, the last several degrees of, actually, 29? Oh my goodness. Venus is at that 20, just about that anaretic degree. Okay, so with this last degree of Venus and Sag, and Ceres is still holding space there too, my prayer is that there's more unitive movement rather than the separation. So, yeah. And then with Uranus and that inconjunct to the South Node, there can be major adjustment that comes through because now you figure out, because look how this is just the exact degree. Maybe you figure out, how things have been challenging in your relating and how, you can learn to know yourself much better through relationship because relationships are mirrors. So, yeah. Okay, and then the South Node is also... Well, actually, just look at Mars. See how Mars is at 13 degrees Capricorn? And again, cardinal energy with both sides here. So movement oriented. The South Node is holding space for us to come together. With the Libra energy, we are in that opportunity for stimulating conversations, especially with the Moon and Gemini there. Engaging in new ways. Relationships were really coming together and sharing opportunities. The challenging place with Libra is peace at any price, not committing, being kind of flighty, like in and out, and polarizing. Again, back to that contrary, and can actually be on the dark side of Libra can be kind of manipulative. We have to be careful with that, but probably with every sign I could say that that's a challenge. It's human nature. And then just, because of the lack of committal, then there's no real opportunity to be seized with the downside of Libra. But with the nodal, axis in Aries and Libra, we are wanting justice. With the South Node in Libra, we're really wanting justice. And with the square to Mars, there's more push for that this week coming through. And, we can see that. We can see that in the news. Like, who's in court all week, right? Who's getting in trouble with the judge all week? No matter which judge he's in front of. Which judge is about to kick him out of court, right? That would be Judge Kaplan. But anyway, so let's see, with that square, that's going to continue on. We're going to see that all week. And for us, I would say it's a tension field when it comes to relating. And if you can be honest and really commit to communication, you can get somewhere in relationship. Unless there's been abuse or you've tried so many times and nothing's changing, then it can be, with the Capricorn side over here, the ability to set a really strong boundary and just, I'm sorry, but I'm not engaging anymore in this. And, love them from afar. So, yeah, okay, let's go ahead and go to Tuesday. Tuesday, now we have Venus in Capricorn. 0 degrees right here, but it's coming in at 12:51 a.m. Okay, but the moon has made it to Cancer. So, if you were up late last night, you would have experienced the actual, opposition with the moon. But this sojourn of Venus moving through Capricorn, so remember, we go back to Venus and we think of it's our money, it's our values, it's our ability to move through, society and connect with other people. It's a feminine sign, feminine planet. It's of the feminine archetype, of course. It has to do with our self-worth. It has to do so much with what we value, and then where we might even compromise ourselves or compromise, with others, because that's a part of life. That's a part of relationship, is compromising. So that brings us into more, intimate issues. It's our planet of harmony and happiness and the things that we like, right? Like what we, can be very, like those things that bring out your affection and the things that you're attracted to. It rules the arts, but Pisces does too, right? And Neptune. I look at Venus and I think of personal love, human personal love, and I look at Neptune and I think of spiritual love. So your guides, guardian angels, all of the invisible realm to some people can see. And sometimes we can see and other times we can't. It's an interesting thing, It's not something that you can totally control. At least that's been my experience. You can certainly set up the situation and go there and do the best you can, and then sometimes it just doesn't come. And then other times it comes in and you didn't do a thing to try to make it happen. It's just wild. So anyway, now with Venus in Capricorn, Capricorn has us geared towards being more willing to work with each other. And now we have this stellium in Capricorn. Stellium is 3 or more planets in the same sign. So now with all this Capricorn energy, we are very goal-oriented to get into, making plans, to have opportunities and creating structures. And with the Cancer moon moving, this way in a strong opposition, we are going to be thinking in terms of, okay, if we go here, how do will it bring through growth, because Cancer is all about growth. Cancer is all about like your subjective feelings, though. But then again, with the Sun in Aquarius and Pluto in Aquarius, we're also thinking of the big picture. But in terms with Venus moving into Capricorn and the opposing moon, there can be some breakthroughs. There can be some challenges. Also with the moon opposing Mercury and Mars, because every degree this way is going to start opposing over here, right? We're going to be pretty much feeling into, are the plans working? Is this working out? Is communication in this way working out? Now, Mercury also rules, transactions that, like if you're in business for yourself, or if you have, a job where you're keeping track of things. And especially in Capricorn, that's very geared towards Mercury and Capricorn. Is like the tracking of tangible, things, tangible assets. Where it can be challenging with the Capricorn, the stellium in Capricorn, we just have to be careful about being kind of stuck in a place where we're not thinking outside the box. Now, the sun in Aquarius can really help us with that, so I don't think that's really going to be a problem. But with the beginning, stages of this experience, it's possible that the moon would be the better place to go, because it can help you intuit what would help bring in the growth, right? Because, and the growth is all about, safety, securing yourself. But you can bring in some opportunity that helps on both levels, right? The form and the feeling. Now, in feeling your way through creating new form, like figuring out, because you're intuitively following, you're following your intuition. Now, we might see, because Mercury also rules the news that comes out, and the moon also rules the public. So if there's a big news dump today, I wouldn't be surprised. On Tuesday, January 23rd, that wouldn't surprise me at all, because the dark side of Capricorn will be the dictator, autocratic, controlling, manipulation, people that abuse resources and they don't care about anyone other than themselves on the darkest levels. So we may see something like that come through. Or maybe someone has a big emotional meltdown. That could happen. Let's see. Other aspects are the same. With Venus newly into Capricorn, we do have the square to Neptune going on, so we do have to be careful about someone trying to pull the wool over your eyes, trying to make some money, because Venus in Capricorn is all about making money, that's for darn sure. So let's see, anything else? The moon is exactly trining Saturn. This is beautiful here, actually, and especially with the double sextile with Jupiter at the head of it. So Jupiter's over here thinking in terms of healing our resources, healing our value systems, healing our, self-preservation, healing maybe not rushing so quickly. Now, sometimes Jupiter can be about laziness and just getting too big, too much. And in Taurus, of course, it could be food. But so as long as we're not, and especially with the sextile, over to the moon in Cancer, both of these. Well, let's just say this: if you do any batch cooking, this would be a really good day. But if you're thinking in terms of, nope, I'm just going to dial up whatever and bring and call, I don't know, whatever, Grubhub or DoorDash or whatever those things are, be careful. You could really overdo it with this, especially with the moon to Saturn and Jupiter and Taurus. That's the only challenge I could see with this. Or, well, it's not just food. It could be spending, like splurging in ways that you might be sorry for later. So if you have any purchasing that you're doing today, maybe put it on the back burner and think about it. In fact, like if you're shopping online, you put it in your cart and save it, but it doesn't mean that you actually buy it yet. And see if you still really feel the same way, over the next few days. But if it's a good purchase, it's the energy's there for the good stuff. If you've been shopping, and especially with Venus and Mercury and Mars in Capricorn, it's not bad. As long as you can afford it and it's what you really want. So okay, now with Mars still squaring the South Node, again we're evaluating relationship and partnership and justice and fairness and equality, and who's telling the truth, who's not, who's manipulating, who's not. All of those things are being worked out by the legal system. So, okay, I think that's good. Let's go to Wednesday. Wednesday, the 24th, the moon's still in Cancer. And like I said, you know, it had been opposing Mercury and Mars. It's moving away from that exact opposition. So I'm thinking that, you know, throughout the last 24 hours, there's been some breakthroughs, and you're really understanding more about what matters, you know, to you most, and you're integrating those opportunities that have come through. And maybe the opportunities were just to revisit the past, because Cancer can so much be related to the past. And, you know, Cancer is ruled by the moon. So if there's been some trauma in the past, and we've had some fixation in survival, that wouldn't surprise me. And then, you know, this healing that can come through, especially with Jupiter over there in Taurus. And the moon is in this aspect of the architect with Uranus, the planet of freedom and awakening, and connecting with this trine up here to Mercury. As Mercury moves even closer, Mars is there too, Mercury and Mars. So looks to me like freedom out of abusive relationships, freedom out of the patterns that created the abuse in the first place. And with the moon squaring the south node, there's that tension field there of relationship. But again, if you trust your feelings, and just know that when you're in emotional reaction, you're in the past, and the emotional reaction will bring up those feelings of, you know, it's only this way. Every time I do this, nothing works, or it just doesn't work out, or this is always what's, you know, happening. You know, we have these like automatic reactions to look at the effect rather than what the cause is. And the cause is a false belief that's been holding a vicious circle in place. So if we can figure out what the false belief is, and the false belief on the most challenging soul split side is going to be something that has to do with your self-worth. So it's going to be something like, I don't matter, or I'm not good enough, or I'm too much, or something like that. You know, just some lack of worth. You know, you have to find your own. You know, because those are words I never want to put in somebody's mouth. But when you find your own soul split, then you can see how your whole incarnation was set up. It was organized, like this whole lifetime was organized around that false belief. And I could pretty much guarantee you, it makes sense to me that the false belief is something that you decided on when you were leaving your last lifetime. And so, because it's not healed, we have to have another incarnation until we leave without false beliefs, right? Then we don't have to come back, unless we just want to. But every time we come back, we do run the risk of getting lost again. So every incarnation, we are learning to remember who we truly are. So with the moon opposing Mercury and Mars, we might start thinking about things like that. And you can see that there is a grand cross going on in here. See how the moon is squaring the north node, and the moon is squaring the south node. So north node, the future, south node, the past. We've got this opposition to Mars. Mars is squaring. Mars is up at a T-square here. The moon's in a T-square over here, and that creates the grand cross. So working ourselves out of a fixed place is what today is all about. Working ourselves out of, but it's all cardinal energy, so it's movement oriented. It's not all, you know, just fixed energy. It's all cardinal energy. So there's movement there. This could bust apart, and then a bunch of strength could come through. I have a Grand Cross in my natal chart, and I know many people that do. And they are some of the strongest people, the most resilient people I know. So you just keep working it. And then with the moon, inching closer and closer to an exact trine to Neptune, your guides and your guardian angels are right there to really help you through it. And with this aspect of the architect going on, there's that movement there too. So breakthroughs are definitely on the table. So, okay, let's go to Thursday. And that's got to be, yeah, the Leo full moon. So here we are, 5 degrees, 5 degrees. The moon opposing the sun is always the full moon every month. So now there's a lot of heart energy to come in to balance out the Aquarian energy that can be just very, thinking broadly or thinking in big terms. With the Aquarian energy, we could be networking, but then we're putting things into categories and we are collecting information and we're thinking in ways to connect even more, and that's really beautiful. But then you bring that heart energy into it with the Leo energy. That's now we've got the creative expression, the creative self-expression that's much bigger than what you can do alone. So I don't see this full moon as being so challenging unless you bump up against somebody who doesn't want to listen to your thoughts, your ideas, somebody who the only biggest challenge would be is if you have somebody who's in charge, like a boss or a supervisor or someone, and they don't want to listen to your good idea, and because it doesn't serve them, because they would have to make some changes and adjustments, but it's a really good idea, and they just dismiss and don't take advantage. Now, on another level, with the Aquarian energy, they can be disruptive, and I would think if there's a problem, it's probably going to come more at this end because Pluto's there, So this could be a boss who's just kind of, comes in and disrupts everyone's focus. Somebody who's not really attached, to each, or they're detached, I should say, from the heart, and they're just kind of superficial, right? It's like a lack of cohesion that just takes away the opportunities because they've got their opinion, they've got something to say, and it's all about them being seen. Right? This is not going to be a good day for Schittler. Not at all. Because this full moon is happening in his 12th house. Yeah. Okay. So, yeah, maybe E. Jean Carroll's, maybe that case, well, the case is done. It's just more, it's all about how much he'll pay. But anyway, let's don't talk about him anymore. The full moon is in conjunct exactly to Saturn. Okay, Saturn's the government. Saturn is the rules and regulations that are in place. Saturn's the structure that's in place, and there is an adjustment to the full moon. So when I say full moon, just think of something on full display. There's full illumination. Oh, and by the way, well, let me finish up here first. With Saturn, there's going to be a reality testing. There's the adjustment of a reality test. Okay, reality's here, and it's tired of being victimized. We're forming new laws into place that protect the vulnerable. Okay. Now, with Saturn up here in this, at the head of the sextile on both sides to Jupiter, which it's been there, so we're dealing. It's still coming through. These are the two builders of the zodiac that I was talking about last week. But now we have Venus into play with Saturn at the other end. So Saturn has more support with Venus coming through here because Capricorn is ruled by Saturn. Venus, like I said, is the personal octave. Pisces would be the transpersonal spiritual octave. So I think these two work really well together. And of course, that's why we have that sextile. So there's opportunity for healing here. And what else was I know there was another piece here with the square, yeah, with the full moon squaring Jupiter. Yeah, there's something about money and reversals of fortune, and yeah. But for us, I would say that there might be a full illumination. Now, it could be a challenge at first, but then it'll turn into a strength once you work it through, because this is an exact opportunity here. Oh, and I'm so sorry, I forgot to say, the full moon happens at 9:53 a.m. on Thursday. Okay, so that's January 25th. Now, so, the morning's fully underway, and then we have the full moon come in, and all the energy leading up to the full moon is a lot more intense. Than it's like the fever pitch when it's full, and then it backs, the waning energy is not so strong. So this morning will be, I think, a heavy news day. Because again, remember, Mercury and Mars are up here in T-square to the nodes. So those nodes of justice and equality and fairness and, yeah, all of that. And then with Venus holding space for some strong, formation of like the feminine being in control, the feminine being in harmony in some solid way, especially with the sextile to Saturn, right? And then Saturn being that hammer that comes down to protect the feminine. So anyway, with the T-square up here with Mercury and Mars to the nodes, there's the news and there's the actions coming through that I don't think are going to be good for people who are, working on the dark side. It won't be good for the corrupt ones. It'll at least be on full display. I can promise that. Other than that, I can't say what will happen unless I whip out cards, and I'm already at almost an hour and a half going on, so that's not going to happen here. But anyway, so for you guys, with the full moon in Leo, if this is contacting any point in your chart, either ascendant, IC, descendant, or midheaven, it will be a stronger full moon for you. If you have any planets, any personal planets at 5 degrees, or actually with a full moon even 3 to 5 degrees outside of that, so anything 0 degrees Leo to 10 degrees Leo, and maybe even out a little wider, this will be an important full moon for you. And if there's now the signs that trine Leo, so like if you had personal planets trining the full moon, if the full moon trines one of your personal planets, the trines would be to Leo, from Leo it would be to Sag and to Aries. So if you have any personal planets between 0 and 10 degrees of Aries, this full moon will trine and illuminate those Aries planets. All right, so that could be good. And then the same thing with Sag. If you have any personal planets between 0 and 10 degrees of Sagittarius, you'll get the trine on the other side there too. If you have it in both, that'd be fantastic. So, okay, and then the square. If you have the signs that square Leo are Scorpio, or actually Taurus and Scorpio. Okay, so if you have any personal planets between 0 and 10 degrees of Taurus or Scorpio, it might be a little challenging of a full moon for you, but it'll help you find your power. So just remember Leo energy. Let's focus in on that. First of all, it's our creative self-expression. It's ruled by the sun. It's our solar force. It helps us to grow. It helps us to bring in more opportunities, and it helps us to co-create more of who we are. basically. It rules the heart and the upper back. Heart, feeling chakra in the front, upper back, will center in the back. And solar plexus too, like that whole area, not just the heart, not just the upper chest, but the solar plexus as well. Now, the challenging sign with Leo, of course, would be somebody just being a little too egocentric, I guess is a better way to put it. Energy vampires, people who are just, a little too like a drama queen or a drama king. Basically, they're just probably trying to get attention that they didn't get when they were little. And, and your hope is if you give it to them, then they'll heal. But often they don't, because it's always an inside job. They have to give themselves their own attention. In the worst side of Leo, we're dealing with narcissism and psychopathology. But I don't think that applies to you guys. That's not something that I think you need to even worry about at all. I think it's more about, for you guys, it's more about being playful. It's more about having fun. It's more about trusting your spontaneous, real love that comes from your heart. It's about you being in your leadership, leading your own life. It's about you being more generous than you've ever been with yourself and others, loving yourself through any challenges. And if you're into, plays and acting and being, expressing yourself in any way, and art and music and all of that, go for it, because it's, the energy's there. The opportunities are definitely there. But yeah, I think that's about it with the full moon. So let's see, let me just double check. There's no other aspects to the moon. We just have the square to Jupiter. One wants to go fast and big, and the other one wants to stay safe. But Jupiter over here Jupiter's about healing that. So maybe the square isn't so bad at all. Yeah, I think that's it. Let's go ahead and go to, let's see, that was Thursday, this is Friday. So Friday, the moon's still in Leo, but now it's in a formation with the aspect of the architect and these two quincunx inconjuncts up here. Okay, so let's go with the sextile to the south node first. So this is opportunity for sharing in relationships that are loving and open-hearted and giving, where you just love seeing them express themselves and vice versa. And it's basically a love party. Especially with the trine over here to Chiron. This can be very, very healing. Chiron is both our deepest wounding, but both our greatest gifts. You get through the wounding and the gifts are down deep in the buried treasure. So this looks to me like a lot of buried treasure being brought to light is what I'm seeing here. I absolutely love that. And then Mercury and Mars has moved close enough together to form a trine to Uranus, or a tighter trine than it's been in. It was there before, but now it's getting really tight. So breakthroughs that help you with freeing up maybe some fundage. Some fundage, that's a real word, right? Fundage. Having fun, more fundage, and literally having it. I like that. And it might be so big and so mind-blowing and so happy that you're going to have to make an adjustment for all of that happiness in your heart. There's that very real possibility. Because we have an adjustment coming in from the heart, the intuition, the love, and the mind, and then the motivation to have even more of that. So that's how you can make the best use of Friday. And then with this aspect of the architect here and the moon at that hinge point, that opens us up to even more. So it's always, I think I say this every week, that it's always a choice to love, and that's always going to be the right choice, no matter what the situation is. Right? So, okay, let's go to Saturday. Saturday, nope, that's last Saturday. This one here. Okay, so we have the moon still in Leo. Now it's a part of a grand trine coming off of Eris. So Eris to the moon, there's a lot of courage here. I forgot to say one of the key words with Leo is courage. With Aries as well, okay? With the way you can make the distinction is Aries courage is about moving forward, trusting your instincts, blazing your own trail, asserting yourself. And with Leo, the courage comes from loving and opening the heart and expressing yourself. You know, Aries, you can move. You can, it's about like movement and go, go, go. But Leo, it's about sometimes stopping and loving. So maybe you're out on a walk. Now it's time to stop and look at the flowers, be with the flowers, and appreciate the flowers. Leo energy is so much to do with appreciation. So maybe it is about appreciating nature, because with this, there's 2 trines to the moon. I'll look at the first one up here as Sag, because it's almost exact. Ceres and Sag, that's big nature. It may be appreciating the big trees. I mean, like now, all my judicious or deciduous, what the heck? Deciduous trees are just completely bare. They are growing within, the roots are developing. But I'm so loving the fact that I have, the conifer trees that, the pine trees that are green all year long. So I am appreciating that part of big nature. That is Sagittarian energy. The moon and Sag together is very intuitive movement, but it's connected at the heart, going into the heart and then movement from there. That's really the only way intuition is trustworthy. Now, with the moon, and so to back up just in case, just to be a little clear on that, you can get hits, you can get ideas, you can get direct guidance, and it won't feel like it's connected to your heart because it's just an idea. And then if you take the idea and bring it into your heart and ask yourself, is this something I would really love to do? Do I feel called? Is there some spontaneous real love coming through here? And it's always the heart that will give you the answer. And then Sag helps you to move that energy. So, yeah. Okay, now what else with the other leg? So Ceres, nurturing. Ceres is about nurturing. Ceres has to do with, sometimes it's connected to grief and separation, though. So I'm thinking that for someone, who that has his South Node and Moon in Sag, and in the 5th house of My Way or the Highway, I think there's going to be some grief and separation from some cash for him. But Ceres is related to, whatever maternal imprint that we grew up with. So I don't know if you have Ceres in Sag or not, but whatever sign you have Ceres in, you can look there to get clues. Maybe if you're having trouble remembering parts of your childhood. It's related to food. It's related to just everything that helps us to grow. It's related to farming and agriculture. So, in Sag, with this connection here to the moon in Leo, I'm hoping there might be some healing coming through for climate change. I'm hoping there's some movement for climate change, and the big forests all over the world. Because, with the other leg over here to Eris, Eris is, she's the dwarf planet that's going to win. Just like Mother Nature. Mother Nature always wins, right? And we get to learn. And now we can also see that Ceres has been in an exact square to to Neptune. So are we, in our movements outward, towards life, following our intuition, are we listening not only to our hearts, but are we listening to our guides and our guardian angels? Are we connected to our higher selves when we're making decisions? Let's see. The moon is also this morning, and I clocked this at 7 a.m. so we could get the Mercury and Mars exactly. I'll focus on that in a second. But for now, sticking in with the moon, we have the inconjunct here, quincunx up to Pluto. Okay, and as the moon continues on, it'll be to the sun. So there's adjustments, because if we're connected with the love in our heart, then that will bring in a power shift within. And then with the moon in conjunct the sun, there will be that really beautiful connection between your heart and solar energy, the essence, the core essence of who you are. And it might be you have a lot of friends, because Aquarius rules friendship. You might have a lot of powerful friends, or friends that feel the power of your love, and you have a really nice day. It could be a really wonderful morning on Saturday. Looks like a morning for having fun. That's for darn sure. Remember, back to play, like little kids. Leo often rules kids. Let's see. Now let's go to Mercury and Mars together. So they've been close, but now they're exact at 7 a.m. exact, which is interesting. Mercury and Mars together is that epitome of in the sign of Capricorn. Well, let's break it down first. So remember, Mercury was here. Now it's over on the other side. It probably happened a little before 7, if Mercury exactly at that 17 degrees, but I didn't clock the minutes back because I figured you guys don't really care. Because it's been conjunct, right? Now that it's exact, this could be a very powerful day when it comes to communicating in ways, because now we're almost all the way through that second decan of Capricorn. And remember, the second decan, so from 10 to 19 degrees is where we are integrating something that we've been working hard on in Capricorn. And it might just be integrating, not just, because this would be like really powerful, right? Integrating your inner authority, knowing who you really are, because you've worked hard to bring yourself back to who you are. You remember who you are. And it's a quiet kind of authority in Capricorn. Capricorn's shy. It's a something and you feel deep in your bones, and you don't need to, really display and put yourself out there a lot with it because it's patient. Capricorn energy is patient. It's determined. It's our discipline and our self-responsibility and our duty and our, self-control. Now, on the dark side, and I say that because we do have the squares to the nodes, there could be something else that comes out in the news today about people that are just kind of mercenary thinking, and it's just all about the money. But they're going to have their life lessons around that. They're going to get what they want because that's all they focused on. But then when they get there, they're going to go, oh, is this all it is? This isn't what I thought I wanted. You can have all the money in the world. If you don't have any love in your life, you're sad. You're very sad. So there you go. And you don't have love in your life without self-love. And you can't have self-love if you're just always thinking about your money. It just doesn't work that way. You can try, though, and then, you learn those lessons. So that's what they're going through. What else? With Mercury, Mars, and this T-square to the nodes, these are, like I said, life lessons for some people. Now you can see that the nodes have moved 1 degree back. So now we're at that 18 degrees. Instead of 19, we're at 18. And the nodes are in that second decan of transformation, to where there is that integration of those life lessons. So I really appreciate that. And because it's within that dynamic of Aries and Libra, it's Aries can sometimes be just me, and then Libra is them. So it can be like us versus them, or it can be me versus him, or me versus her. And so, we have to be careful. We want to integrate both of these polar opposites and, make opportunities for both. We want justice for all, right? We don't want just justice for us. We want justice for all. The only challenging thing, and I think I'll close up with this, is that when it comes to justice, we're only seeing our perspective over one lifetime. And sometimes it takes many lifetimes for a soul to come to meet, come to meet justice. And so if we don't see a person, like, for instance, we've seen Trump go through and skate through and be like, he's been called Teflon Don, and it looks like he just never has to take self-responsibility for anything. But we're not seeing what he's setting up for his next lifetime, and we're not done witnessing this lifetime yet. But I think that we can all agree, I don't know, maybe it's just something to think about if you don't agree, but I do believe that justice always prevails. And that if we can just trust that. Now, that doesn't mean we don't stand up and fight and say what we need to say and vote the way we need to vote, because, they need to be held accountable. Justice needs to apply to every person. The rich don't get away with it. And they often do in the past. They have in the past. But that's because we're here on planet Earth, where the same soul gets to incarnate over and over and over and over again until it heals. And one of the major ways of healing is to heal their materialistic ways, right? Because this is a planet that is based in material reality. And, those are there's like a vicious triad of a vicious circle of evil, which has to do with materialism and, numbing out, materialism and cruelty, but you have to be numb to be cruel. And, yeah, so, and then that control, trying to control other people all the time. That's the reason for the materialistic viewpoint. Like, if they think that they can control reality, then they're safe. But it's not true. Because they're all going to meet their maker on some day, right? So notice we still have I thought I was done, but we still have the grand fire trine going on. And Ceres up here will be that directional. If you can nurture yourself to go in the right direction by trusting your intuition, you're going to be just fine. But remember, the heart is the bridge to open up your intuition. It doesn't come from being detached. You can get a lot just through your head, but you won't really experience the full intuitive support until you open your heart. And that's a day-by-day thing, So there's almost a kite aspect going on here, but not completely. So I think I'll just go ahead and get this uploaded, being that it's already an hour and 45 minutes. But yeah, other than that, I'm sending you big hugs as always, and hope you have the best week ever so far. Bye.